In Service to Love, the relationship podcast that helps you create more love in the practical day-to-day, centering connection in the life of the modern family with your host, therapist, mother, and artist, Randé Dorn. Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Service to Love. I am your host, Randé Dorn, and today I wanted to talk about roles in relationships. And I'll cover three different kind of areas, and I'll probably be covering them pretty general today, but we got to start somewhere. um, so before that, how's everybody? I'm good. It's actually late here today. I recorded another episode earlier with Melissa Shepard Williams. It was fabulous. I can't wait to share that with you. And right before this, I was watching one of those Christmas movies, the one with Lindsay Lohan. I'm not getting paid to, to say that. And as predictable and terrible as those are, and this one included, that I was still tearing up. I still get really emotional when it comes to sappy love stories. I'm a sucker for the music. And I'm a sucker for people finding love. So, I mean, this is part of what this work is, right? Is that I want people to find connection and I want people to find love. And so, um, when I'm not doing that, I'm watching other people fall in, fall in love, on ridiculous movies that have the same plot over and over again. I'm predictable. If you know me, you'll get to know me. I'm predictable. So talking about roles, right? So the first one I want to talk about is dating, and what is our role when we're dating. And I'm gonna be transparent now, and I'll probably lean more towards male female heterosexual relationships. I deal with a variety of relationships in my work, but I know in terms of this conversation that I'll probably lean that way. So, in terms of dating, what is our role? And it was really funny that someone stopped me today to kind of ask me that question. So I think that's partly why it's in my head right now. Our role when we're dating, one is to date, right? And to vet this person. And what are we vetting for? That's up to you. What kind of relationship are you looking for? Are you wanting to date so that you can be casual? Are you wanting to date because you're really looking for someone? And when I say looking for someone, are you looking for someone for 2 weeks, 2 years, for 20? Are you looking to be in a marriage, a monogamous relationship? Are you wanting to be just, again, casually dating? So I'm dating other people, so I'm open. When I say open, I've dealt with open relationships before, my work and in my practice, and it definitely can work. And maybe I always say that, maybe this is for another time, but I'm going to tell you it often doesn't work. And I say that because I don't think people are being really transparent and realistic about what that is. I think, oftentimes it is when people are like, I'm open. It's because they're not wanting to be uh, maybe I'm using those words, their words, or what I'm thinking is in their head, trapped in a particular relationship style, right? Obviously, a traditional monogamous relationship style. And when they say that they're quote unquote open, it is a way for them to circumvent even those conversations. So when someone's really in an open relationship, there is a ton of conversation. There is a ton of consideration for their partnerships. There's so much care that goes into that, and oftentimes you're not going to find that when someone's just kind of like open relationships. There can be a lot of lack of consideration, for lack of better words. So when we're dating, going back to one, when we're dating, our role is kind of like what we define, and we should define it in terms of what are you intentionally trying to create, ideally. And then from that place of intentionally trying to create, you also are, I want you to really intentionally think about, what am I offering? Right? What am I trying to create? And when I think about what I'm trying to create, what am I trying to get from the person that I'm dating? And what am I trying to offer? Right? The person that I'm dating. And something that came up in that same conversation earlier today was this idea of, this helps, right? Is the menu. What is on the menu? Right? And the other part of when I'm dating, when I say I'm vetting, I'm trying to get to know this person to see if they're a fit. And what I mean by that is a fit for my values, right? Do they fit the values that propel me through life, the values that I stand on? Uh, When you're thinking about values, values are, like, do I believe in like wealth? Do I believe in um independence, money, fame, family, love? Like, what do I believe in? What are the words that I stand on? When I've taught classes around kind of understanding who we are, understanding our identity, when you think about your values, one, you can choose your top 10. And I really encourage you to put them in order. How do I do that? You just pull up a value sheet off the internet that has a list of words, and you choose your top 10. And then you choose your top three. What are my top three values? Right? So if I were to say my top three values are love, uh, independence, independent, and integrity, right? I like to be consistent in my integrity. If those are my top three, then if you met me or if you spent a little bit of time with me, you should know that, right? Meaning, I ask people, tell me what your top three are, and then prove it to me. Prove it to me. Prove it to me that love is one of your top values. Prove it to me in terms of the stories that you tell me about your life and in terms of how you move through the world. Prove it to me that integrity is one of your top values. Prove it to me that independence. And if you can't prove it to me, it isn't one of your top values. That doesn't mean you can't make it one of your top values, but it ain't a top value today. Right? So decide what your top 10 are. Think about that, right? Think about who you are and what you're offering. And then when you're dating to figure out, is this person a good fit, a good match? Again, whether I'm with you for 2 weeks or whether I'm with you for 2 years or 20, right? And what I really encourage people, and I will say especially women, is to date more than one person at a time. Why? Because part of our nature is to connect, right? Part of our nature is to merge, and sometimes we merge too quickly. I'm, I do that a lot myself. So when we date a couple of different people, it helps us to stop, kind of getting too close too soon, getting too attached. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Getting too attached too soon. Men don't necessarily date in that way. They are incredibly available for commitment, but they don't commit necessarily early. They really are. Most of them have the ability to take their time and really think about who they're dating and who they want to commit to. Because what I find is that when men commit, it really is a very different level of commitment than sometimes women offer. As I say, conversation for another time. But so yes, the first one is thinking about my values, thinking about what my intention is for this relationship, and then dating from that place of intention, right? Dating from that place of fun. And so then when I think about my role as someone who is dating or a dater, right, is that my role is to demonstrate, again, hopefully from a place of integrity, who I am, right? To be transparent, to be vulnerable, to be available. That's a big thing, right? To be available to date. So when we go back to this idea of the menu for being in an exclusive relationship, number 2, we are together, we're exclusive, we're monogamous, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, we're partners, whatever you want to call it. The menu, the things on the menu on, yes, the items on the menu should look different, right? How we sometimes, or when we sometimes get in trouble is when we are offering things on the menu, on the exclusive menu, before someone has earned it. We're just dating. So why am I giving you the girlfriend experience? Why am I giving you the partner experience? Why am I doing your laundry? Why am I, cooking you meals every night? Why are you sleeping over my house as if we're more than we are? And part of having those clear categories, those clear roles, even in your own head, is so that you, one, can protect yourself. This goes for anybody. That I shouldn't be offering a particular experience that we haven't agreed to. We haven't agreed to be exclusive, and yet I'm giving you the experience of exclusivity, and we're only dating. And then I'm upset, or I have these expectations, or I'm hurt because we're not on the same page. And sometimes I'm giving you the experience to convince you to move into the next category. And I'm sure, as many of us know, it doesn't work that way. If we're going to move into the next category together, we both want to be willingly moving into that next category together. I shouldn't have to convince you in the sense of trying to sell you on me or on the experience of me. And even as I say that, I've been there, done it. I'm sure many of us have done that. We go back to this idea of worth. So now I'm showing you all my cards, or I'm putting all the stuff on the table, as if it's a dowry or something, and then you get this and you get this, you get great meals, you get me texting you all the time, you get, to come hang out or live at my house, and you get, your laundry done. Like, you get all this if you give me the experience of your exclusivity. That's not how it works. We date to get to know the fundamental values of the person, and then we say, "Oh, this feels like a nice fit. Let's move to category number 2 with a different list of what's on the menu." Now you get access to more parts of me, in some ways more parts of my life. I'm giving you more time, I'm giving you more energy, I'm giving you a different experience, and then we get to see how this works, how this fits. Because the next step, let's say I was just 3 categories: dating, exclusive, marriage. The roles in marriage, the type of consideration, the type of commitment that comes with marriage should feel different. I'm saying it like that because you'll see this in movies and TV too, right? Where we've been exclusive, we've been living together, and then we get married, and it's like nothing's changed, nothing's different. It should be. If it ain't, it should be. It should be different because there is a deeper level. I'm saying to you, I choose you for the rest of my life. Now, half of us can't figure out how to do that, myself included. Myself included. But that was our again, our intention, right? Our intention in that moment is to say, I choose you for the rest of our lives. And so I am choosing to put you ahead of a lot of things. I'm choosing to consider you always. I'm choosing the idea of us, and my role changes. My role should change in relationship to the longevity of that commitment. So, going back to dating and going back to the dating menu, I'm giving you my time. I'm giving you my energy. My role in some ways is to certainly be awake and alive and happy to see you. It should be inviting you into parts of my life. It should be introducing you to people that I care about, people who would again would be a part of your life, activities that would be a part of your life if we were to move forward to, let's say, phase two. And then, as we do all that, it's like, well, like this feels nice. I like this. Like I like spending time with you. I like what you're introducing me to. I like what you stand for, your values. This feels like a nice fit because we shouldn't be fighting each other in terms of our values later on. I'm going to say, kind of the thing. Obviously, the thing that comes to mind is religion in the sense of someone who's an atheist can absolutely date someone who has a particular uh, faith, religious faith, but it's going to be incredibly difficult moving forward when we are met with difficult circumstances, when we're deciding to raise children, that there's absolutely room for compromise, but you need to understand what you're willing to compromise in that. We have to start to know ourselves, and the idea of dating is it's a skill, it's a practice, it's something we have to work on it, and it's an opportunity. Every time we meet someone new, every time someone reflects us to ourselves, it is an opportunity for us to get to know better who we are. We get to know in some ways what is connecting, in a very human way to someone else, and what might be repelling. It is okay for us to learn that there's parts of us that repel. Again, because ultimately we want to connect. And so we need to know what's not working. We need to know what is repelling about us as much as we need to know and celebrate and be celebrated for the parts of us that draw people in, that draw in care and love and connection. And so think of dating, as this really, as hard as it is, a really beautiful opportunity to start to hmm, feel like those really early fun feelings of turn on and connection and interest and curiosity, to let someone like pique your interest, pique your curiosity, let someone bring you into their world, and to see what it feels like to bring someone else into your world without having to make any major decisions around commitment. So once you've done that for a while, we're now on to the exclusive relationship and the bigger menu number two. And for some people, that might mean moving in. For many people, that means a monogamous relationship. For many people, it means, okay, now we're going to add more time. Maybe we saw each other once or twice a week. Now we're seeing each other 3 or 4 times a week. Whatever that is, to think it should look different. That is what I want to keep emphasizing right now in terms of these early roles or these early ways of showing up, is that between one and two, between dating exclusivity, there should be a vast difference. And if there's not a vast difference, then why would anyone be exclusive to you? Why? If I get the same thing but I don't have to commit to you, and then we wonder, why aren't they committing? Why aren't they committing? Well, because because I'm getting everything already. You're giving me everything, you're showing me everything, you're doing everything. I have no reason. And someone's gonna write in or tell me they were the exception. Good. Glad you were the exception. It's nice. But it's also the urban legend that we tell ourselves when we know we are acting out of our best interests. It is not necessarily in our best interest to give in a way that creates really distance from ourselves. It's not in our best interest. And it really isn't in our best interest to keep telling this urban legend story of like, well, this, Jack and Sarah figured it out, or, that one night stand turned into a marriage. Yes, sometimes. But if you asked all the people in your life, I can't imagine that this is like the running norm. And is that really what you want for that particular beginning to be the beginning of this lifelong love that you found? There's nothing wrong with it, even though I sound super judgy. There isn't anything wrong with it. And what I'm going to ask you to do is go back to that place of what was my intention? Because we don't often, from that place of intention, start a relationship that we want to end in marriage from a one night stand. And so the intention of our energy is going to be very different in that relationship versus one where there is a desire for longevity, for commitment, and for many people, children. And, I'm pausing in the sense that there are going to be judgment around our sexual practices that we then may have a hard time transitioning into seeing those same activities or the people who are associated with those activities in a different light. And that's for you to decide. Again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. This is all about what you're creating. What is the matrix, or what is the menu for how you want to date, and what is available to someone who's dating versus available from you to them, available to someone who you are now in exclusive relationship. And so when we then move to that next bigger category, and I think it, through as I'm saying all this, please know, obviously there'll be more conversations that will go into more depth in each of these categories, but I really wanted to be a little bit more general today, just so that you could get maybe a sense of like the life cycle of going from dating to marriage, let's say. And the work or the play of how our role changes between those three, and that there are real boundaries between those. That I'm not necessarily going to be, if I'm not exclusive, I'm not going to be living with you. That's not a thing, let's say. And that's kind of probably for many people an obvious one, right? But that's an obvious boundary. If we're just dating, we're not living together. Maybe for some people, an obvious boundary is you're not going to meet my family or my parents if we're not exclusive. So know that you already have some boundaries. I just want to invite you to go over them again, right? And to see if there are any places where you want to strengthen those boundaries or again move things from one category to another in a way that just feels more holistic for you, more just that feels like it's just more caring to you, your soul, and your spirit. So when we get into this place of marriage or the a more robust, let's say, partnership where we are living together, we may be commingling our finances, where I'm, maybe taking responsibility for, your family or your friendships or the children that we've created together. That where we get tripped up is that we now need a structure for our lives. There is you, there is me, there's this partnership, and there's a life that we're creating, even a home for many of us that we're creating together. And so it requires a structure. And there can be oftentimes we don't really kind of get into the nitty gritty of that. There can be the big ones. We both work, or I'm the provider and you're the homemaker. You have the children. And so maybe I do the outdoors and you do the indoors activities, whatever that means. But we sometimes just kind of fall into the roles that maybe we played out in our own home. Maybe if you grew up always mowing the lawn at home, then you now have your own home, you have a new partnership, and now you're still mowing the lawn. And maybe we didn't really even talk about it. It's just something I started to do. I'm really good at washing dishes, I'm fast at it. So I moved from home to home doing dishes. But I don't know that we talked about it. And what would it mean to go over some of these smaller roles, but also the more, again, the ones that require a little bit more attention? The role of providing, the role of parenting, the role of taking care of the home life, the role of taking care of the friends, the role of taking care of our parents or even our elder parents. I'm mixing roles with tasks or with what we do. But what I'll tell clients, and then I'll come back. What I'll tell clients and how to think about it is to see each of us. This is an invitation. I want you to see yourself as a pie, tons of slices, and let's say most of them are even, some of them are not, but whatever, right? So you're a pie, and your part as a partner in a marriage are three slices. What? Only three slices? Hear me out. Because you're not just a partner. You're not just a husband. You're not just a wife. You're not just a partner, right? I'm not just a partner. I'm a parent and I'm a sister and I'm a coworker and I'm a therapist and I'm right. And each one of those roles, those are kind of external big roles, each one requires my participation. Each one of them requires me adding something to the relationship. So I can't add and be present 100% of the time and you can't have my whole pie because I have to give some slices to my brother. I have to give some slices to my sister. I have to give some slices to my clients. I have to give some slices to my kids. Do you see how all of a sudden we end up with no pie? Like, right? And so if we can visualize that concept and say, all right, I only get 3 of those slices, then I ask each of those partners within the conversation, what 3 do you want? And what I mean by that is that if I can only provide you with 3 things, your top 3, meaning, and I'll be consistent with those top 3. On my best day, on my more resource day, I can give you 5. Maybe in the most amazing day when it's just about you, I can give you a full 10. But I know I can consistently give you 3. What are those 3? Someone might say, I want you to be one of them being a provider. The other one is that you have a certain care and commitment to my family, my bigger extended family. And maybe the third one is you're an amazing date. We're always going out and having a good time. And then when kids come along, I still only got the 3. Okay, well, you don't have to be as consistent with my extended family. We'll lower them on the list. Maybe they become 4 and 5, but I need you to be a really great parent. And you can see, even as I'm naming those are all huge. There's so many like little sub things under them. So we can get smaller as well, right? In terms of our 3. But do you see how me even just asking, can you be a great parent? Can you be a provider? And can you be a great date? How that's a lot of work? And so when you say do those 3, but then be, walk the dog all the time, or take care of this or that at home, or it's like, and of course I want to give you that. I want to try. But I offer the idea of the top 3 so that we have compassion for our partner's inability to be all the other things all the time. So when they're resourced, of course they'll walk the dog. Of course they'll do the dishes. Of course they'll help out. But when they're not resourced, they're like, remember I'm working to provide for this family. Or remember I've been parenting all day. Or remember, and it's like, oh yes, okay. So dishes weren't done. Can we talk about how we can get that done? But I can also have compassion for the fact that it wasn't done. It wasn't one of my top 3 because I had to choose. And honestly, I chose wisely. Like, right? And then when we have those top 3, because then again, I have to give top 3 to my coworkers. I have to give my top 3, whatever those are, to my kids. I have to give my top 3. So even as people, we're already kind of at our limits in a lot of ways. This world asks so much of us. It asks so much of us. It really is obnoxious and silly, the kind of things that we tell ourselves we need to do to be humans in this world. It's yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy town. So, but let's stick to the agenda. Right? So I've asked for my top 3, and my partner has committed to those top 3. So I then am looking for those top 3 to be fulfilled, and I'm praising my partner for those top 3 when they're fulfilled. So grateful that you're providing. I love the fact that you are so close to the kids. Wow, what an incredible date that was. Like, thank you so much for planning that, or for executing that, or for taking me out. I feel so cared for. I feel so loved. Those top 3 are about providing you the experience of being cared for and loved. And that's why in some ways you get to define what those are. Now, I'll give you a tidbit, because when we went, let's go back to D. Let's go back to number 1. We want to pick someone who already shares many of our values. That's why we were vetting them. We want to pick someone that, and I'm almost hesitating because I know we typically will pick our opposites. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But we want to pick someone who shares enough of our values and feels enough of a fit that when we get to that place of marriage, and then I say my top 3, that they're not, what the F? What is this? these top three make no sense to me. What do I mean by that? I mean, again, that you married an atheist, and one of my top three is that you go to church with me every Sunday. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you ask something that is so out of line for the partner that you chose? Why would you create that kind of pain for both of you? And again, this is not about you this is not about you marrying someone who's an atheist. It's about you marrying someone who's an atheist and then asking for them to do something that's so left field because you didn't want to take the time to vet them before. You didn't want to take the time to figure out if our values are in alignment so that when I asked you to do something, hopefully I'm asking you to do something that's within your values because I know them and because I respect you enough to do that. Again, it's like asking someone to say, "Oh, one of my top three is that you are stealing and embezzling money," but I chose someone whose top values is ethics, honor. Why would you do that? And then we're creating all this pain in these partnerships. We're creating all these pain in these marriages because I didn't want to take the time to get to know you, to deeply get to know what you stand for, and then again ask you to prove it. Prove it to me that that's what you stand for. Prove it to me that your ethics is what you stand for. Prove it to me that loyalty or commitment or friendship or family, whatever it is, that those are your top 10, your top three. So that now that we're married, because I'm marrying your values. That's what I'm marrying. I'm marrying what you value because once we're kind of in our 20s, 30s, really 20s, we pretty much know what our values are. They're not really going to change. Our values are very kind of like similar to our height. I mean, maybe we'll shrink a little bit as we get older, but it's going to be pretty constant, right? Our height will be consistent, and so are our values. There'll be some tweaking here and there, as we learn, as we grow, as we become adults, but they're not going to change as much as we think that they are. They're certainly not going to change in our partners as much as we hope. So we date so that we stop being delusional about who we're dating. We're going to take the time to get to know them, to get to know their values. And when I get to know their values, I get to get a sense of them. Then I open up the menu vault and I say, here's a couple of more items on the menu. And now let us see how how both of our values show up in category number 2 when we're exclusive. Because now that I need for you to stand for your values and stand for me in partnership, in marriage, I need to trust that consistency. And I need for us to then work on and compromise in our roles, right? How we define that. Now, within a partnership, especially a traditional one, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of pretty standardized roles, right? Or behaviors within our roles, right? We need the stuff that's in the home done. We need to provide for ourselves. If we have children, they need to be raised, loved, nurtured. And when we think about our roles and in the broader sense, the broader dynamic of the family, that we want to look at how each of us shows up to add to the family. The other thing about roles is that there might be a little bit of overlap, but there shouldn't be a complete overlap. So what also will show up in a family and certainly in a partnership is that we're doing the same thing, meaning we're asked and we want to, but we're asked to both be providers. We're asked to both do the housework. We're asked to both, but then we haven't quite divided it. And so, well, you should just do the thing because you see the thing isn't done. And that's not how people work. I'm in my own world, in my own narrative, and I'm doing the thing that I know I'm supposed to do. Whatever that means, according to my values and according to what I prioritize on my list. So if we haven't talked about what we're supposed to be prioritizing, my top 3, because there's a top 3 for you, there's a top 3 for me, there's a top 3 for the kids, top 3 for us. If we haven't really discussed what is the priority, then I will choose my own priority. And I'm going to tell you, the first priority for most of us, right, is food, shelter, and rest. So if I'm tired, I'm going to prioritize that. If I am hungry, I'm going to prioritize that. Now, I might put some things ahead of it, but just know that our basic needs really will continue to push through and force us to prioritize it. So first we have to be resourced in terms of our basic needs. And then after that, I can do my top 3. And then after that, I can do my top 5 and et cetera, et cetera. And so going back to those roles, when it's just a partnership, even though the world or maybe, the United States or places are really kind of forcing us to kind of stand in the same role, both of us working, both of us providing, both of us, it can get sticky. And not that those things don't need to happen, but if we're both standing in the same place, it can be hard for us to see the other person because I can't see them separate from me. So I can't always see what you're doing because you're doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. And now we're actually in competition. Well, I'm doing more of that same thing. I'm working harder. I'm doing more dishes. I'm in competition with my partner instead of in partnership. And so yeah, there's a little bit of overlap, but think how do we work together first from our strengths? What is it that you're so good at and what is it that you love to provide? What is it that I'm so good at? What is it that I love to provide to the us in quotes? And then how do we resource everything else? Divide and conquer. Here's the list of the 5 other things that neither of us love to do and neither of us are necessarily strong in. But okay, I'll take 1 or 2 hard things. You take 1 or 2 hard things, and then maybe we pay for someone else to do the last hard thing. And therefore we go back to that place of partnership. But really think about. I think I'm having this. I'm offering this because I really want for you all to think about how am I defining from a place of my role? How am I defining what I'm offering to my partnership, to my job, to my dating, to my children? Like how can you get really crystal clear? This is what I'm offering. This is what I'm doing. Because, I got all excited. Because when you're crystal clear about what you're offering, then you can be crystal clear about what you're not offering. I love, love that dynamic of my yes as well as my no. I will probably say that maybe in every episode because it's so important. Because again, in partnership, we have such a hard time owning our no's. I don't want to do the dishes. That doesn't mean we shouldn't solve it together. But let's just be clear. I don't want to do that. Going back to my values. You knew this about me. It's not a value of mine. And now you're asking me to do something that's way out of left field. How do we solve this? The dishes need to be done. Well, maybe we just don't eat at home. And so then I don't have to deal with dishes. Or we get a dishwasher and I'm happy to at least to just rinse before I put in the dishwasher. or I take on something else and I leave the dishes to you. How can we do that in a way where you don't resent me for it? Instead of pretending I'm going to do it, or instead of just not talking about it, how do we own our no's? And we own our no's by being very, very clear about what our yes is, very clear about our identity in this relationship, and very clear about what I'm offering, what's on the menu, what's on the menu, and very clear about what's not on the menu. And going back to dating, I really encourage you to be honest about that. And stop pretending. We all do this too, myself included. Stop pretending there's stuff on the menu that's not going to be on the menu when you get married. A good one, a one we always do, right? Like we're all just these hypersexual beings all of a sudden when we're dating, and then all of a sudden we're married. And it's like, well, I can't do that all the time. I have a full-time job. I'm doing this and that. Like, well, how is your partner supposed to know that that was going to be taken off the menu when you got married? Why didn't you disclose that? Why didn't you talk about that? I mean, that is a good thing about premarital counseling, right? That there's this opportunity to have these conversations. So this whole thing is just to encourage you to have the conversation. Who you are in each of those three stages, or who you think you might be in each of those three stages, and to keep each stage unlocks another version of the menu, and what's on the menu and what's not on the menu, and being very clear about that so that we're not getting to chapter 3, to this committed relationship, to this marriage with kids, and now we're fighting about our values, we're fighting about our roles, we're fighting about what's on the menu and what's not on the menu. Be honest so that your partner can trust you. A lot of what I get is the expression of I don't trust my partner. And why don't I trust my partner? Because typically what happens is that there was something on that menu that got taken off. And I'm missing it. I'm missing it. There was this expectation that we were going to be a particular way, maybe even told me that we were going to be a particular way. And now you're not. You're not that person anymore. I hear that a lot. You're not that person anymore, or you're not offering that anymore. And some of that comes from hurt, right? I withdraw, you withdraw. I withdraw, you withdraw, right? I'm going to keep taking things off the menu until you notice me. And we're just creating more pain in the relationship. But what I'm talking about today is that the pain in some ways was embedded because we weren't clear about who we were going to be, the identity we were going to hold in those three different stages of life. And they really are three very different stages of life. And if you could hold the respect and the honor around those three different stages, then you would then I'm gonna say understand. No, I'm gonna use that, but you would then I think understand. The word severity comes up, but it's not that. But like that, you would understand the importance of putting time and attention into how you define that for yourself so that you can be clear with the person that you're falling in love with. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I think that's enough information for you today. And when we go back to marriage at some point, I want to talk about the roles even within parenting, mothers and fathers. I think those are very different roles, and they really should look differently. And you as a couple can still define that, right? It doesn't have to be hyper masculine or hyper feminine or whatever we think it is. But again, should be some crossover, but there shouldn't be a complete overlap. What's the point of that, right? Like that when we're parenting, we're mothering and fathering, those should look different because we want to actually offer that kind of diversity to our kids, the diversity of those experiences, not just within the home, but also outside of the home, right? In terms of our extended family, our extended friendships. So that's a different discussion, but I just wanted you to know that's on the menu. And that if you're thinking about roles, that I'm thinking about it in that way too. I just wanted to be a little bit more condensed in this discussion today. So I hope that helps. I hope this information continues to uh, enliven and serve you in your life. Please, drop me a line, comment, let me know what you're thinking. Uh, Ask questions. I'm happy to answer them in this forum, with you. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to talking to you again soon. All right, bye. Thank you so much for listening. As always, please share, comment, and like so we can grow our community and bring more love to those you love. Great reviews mean a great deal to our work, so take a few minutes and write us a love letter today. Our hearts appreciate every word. Tune in next week for another episode.